Thank you, Daniel, Louise, for inviting me to speak to you all this evening. It's great to be with you, albeit online, this evening. As Labour's new Shadow Schools Minister, a former councillor and a school governor myself, as Daniel's just said, I'm really pleased to see that people are making use of this fantastic network. Thank you also to the NEU colleagues for facilitating what I hope will be the first of many sessions that I can join. I'll say a few words, then I look forward to hearing your views and comments at the end. And I'm particularly pleased to join you in Heart Unions Week. I want to start by thanking all the reps, councillors and members who do so much to make sure we get the very best deal for school staff and teachers in the workplace. That job, I believe, has had renewed importance during the pandemic. And I've been absolutely clear that schools are still living with day-to-day reality of COVID on the front line in education. And pupil absences are thankfully beginning to fall, but are still seeing concerningly high staff absences. Pupil absences are also starting to fall, which I think is really good news. And almost a quarter of schools have more than 15% of teachers and school leaders off. Yet on vaccination, on ventilation and testing, ministers continue to fall short on basic measures that leave public health and education vulnerable to further disruption. On vaccination, we know that 45% of 12 to 15-year-olds still haven't had their first jab, and rates are falling. Labour set out its plan to live well with COVID that prioritises the education system, and that means using the half-term period to boost vaccination rates, engaging directly with parents, and giving councils power to bring in anti-vax education exclusion zones outside of schools to prevent the spread of harmful disinformation. On ventilation, it means getting a proper plan in place involving a full assessment of what's needed in schools, informed by the Bradford trial, which won't report until October this year, to ensure that children are not sitting in coats in their classrooms. Sage first warned of its importance 2 years ago, yet ministers are only just making belated and inadequate announcements on air purifiers. On testing, it means maintaining a continued supply of lateral flow tests so every pupil can test regularly during term and contacts of cases can continue to be tested daily. We cannot wait until there is another crisis to protect the education system, and that's why Labour is calling on the government to act now. But we also need to act now to tackle the generational educational recovery challenge that we face. As it stands, ministers are complacent and inadequate plans risk widening existing inequalities, compounding the damage to education caused by a decade of Tory cuts, and stunting the life chances of a generation of children. Children missed more than 10 million school days in the last term alone, yet ministers' catch-up package represents just £1 for each day children were out of school. And their flagship national tutoring programme is failing pupils and it's failing taxpayers. And that's why Labour is ambitious for our children and their schools. Our education recovery plan that would support our children to play, learn and thrive together once again. Our costed and ambitious plans would deliver school activities and breakfast clubs, quality mental health support in every school, small group tutoring for all those that need it, and would make real investment in our teachers. Not only do schools need resources to recover lost learning, they need staff. But recruitment targets have been hit just once in the last decade, and 25% of teachers are leaving with 3 years of qualification. Burnout and low morale has been a concerningly common theme amongst teachers I've spoken to in the last 3 months, and that cannot continue. Teachers must be engaged, recognised and rewarded, not with performative gestures, but a genuine appreciation of the contribution that they make to society. Keir Starmer pledged to deliver the most ambitious school improvement programme for a generation, tackling the long-term challenges that we face with thousands of new teaching staff, development programmes for school leaders and teachers, an accountability system that drives school improvement. Time and time again, I think this government has demonstrated it's fundamentally unable to plan for and mitigate the impact of COVID on our education system. And the summit of ministers' ambition for education recovery falls well below what children and teachers need and deserve. If ministers won't step up for our nation's children, the next Labour government will. So thanks again, and I really look forward to your thoughts and views later in the discussion.